At night, my husband held me in his arms and suddenly said with affection, "You look so beautiful with your hair down." His eyes were filled with tenderness, but I felt like I'd fallen into an icy abyss, because I always sleep with my hair down. A week later, I went for a prenatal checkup and ran into a woman. Her hair was tied up in a high ponytail, and around her neck hung a dazzling necklace, exactly the same as the one my husband gave me on Valentine's Day. Chapter 1. Sweetheart? Diego suddenly filled my field of vision. "It's our turn. Shall we go in?" My gaze drifted to his face. His expression was perfectly calm, as if he hadn't noticed that woman at all, let alone realized that the necklace around her neck was identical to the one he gave me not long ago for Valentine's Day. I nodded and turned around. He stepped ahead and opened the door for me, but just as I sat down, his phone rang. A work call. Might be something urgent. I'll take it outside. Diego had already joined the board of the regional division. But today was Monday, the mandatory senior management meeting at headquarters. He had to attend. Still, to accompany me for this prenatal checkup. He found a way to take the day off. All these years, he's always put my needs first. Once, I saw handmade mooncakes online and craved them. He flew across provinces to get them to me the very same day. When I had insomnia, he rescheduled his business trip flight just to rush home and hold me through the night. All these years together, he has never made me shed a single tear. Among our friends, we are the textbook couple. But deep down, I know, it's only because he always yields, always accommodates. He cares too much. He's been good to me, day in, day out, for 7 years straight. So much so, that now, when I saw that fleeting flicker of panic in his eyes as he glanced at his phone, I noticed, "You're past the danger zone. Everything looks really good." Clutching the checkup report, I walked out of the consultation room. The woman was no longer in the waiting area. Diego came toward me. "Already done?" Instinctively, I took a step back. Diego never wears cologne. He knows I don't like those scents. But now, there was a faint, sweet fragrance clinging to him. Chapter 2. Diego seemed to notice my reaction. He stopped where he was and didn't come closer, then asked about my checkup. "Everything okay?" "That's great. Pregnancy is so hard on you. Once the baby's born, I'll take some time off and we'll travel. You haven't had much appetite lately. I'll make something fresh for you tonight." He kept talking nonstop the whole way. I responded to each line. One by one, the car stopped at a red light. Diego held the steering wheel, fingers unconsciously curling and rubbing. "Babe, I might have to go on a business trip soon." I turned my head to look at him. His hand on the wheel suddenly clenched, and he forced a smile. "Africa. Once I finish up, I'll find you some unique local handicrafts. I'm a cultural relic restoration specialist. Those things naturally attract me." Diego knew this. He's always known all my likes and habits by heart, which is why it was strange that he gave me that flashy, pearl-studded necklace for Valentine's Day. And now, someone else had the same one. "When are you leaving?" "In 2 days, I think." My phone buzzed. Through the blare of car horns, I looked up. The traffic light had turned green. Summer heat pressed down. A fly slammed into the windshield, its abdomen coiling with tangled patterns. My stomach churned for no reason. "Babe, are you okay? Want to go to the hospital?" He pulled the car to the side of the road. Diego used his body to shield me from the sun, gently patting my back. He looked at me with nothing but deep concern, his face full of sincere worry. "I'll call the person in charge and tell them to replace me. I'll stay home with you." I looked up and gave him a smile. "Go ahead. Work's more important." He pressed his lips together, didn't argue further, and pulled out a pack of tissues from his pocket. The texture was soft, the scent was faint and sweet. The old pack ran out. I bought these at the supermarket next to where I took the call. Didn't expect them to be scented. Chapter 3. I asked Diego to drop me off at the studio. My body was feeling better, and the white glazed porcelain bowl I'd taken on a while ago needed to be repaired. No one's allowed inside my workspace, so Diego waited outside. "I'll come pick you up after work tonight." The cicadas buzzed loudly in the summer heat. I stood by the window watching his car slowly drive away, my fingertips sliding across the phone screen as I dialed Leo. He was my mother's student, got into the company with my father's help, and later became Diego's assistant. Being a government-funded enterprise, personnel movement is strictly regulated. No new hires had joined Diego's team recently. There's a new project in Africa up for bidding. The higher-ups assigned him to lead the team. After hanging up, I opened the hospital visit summary my friend sent me. The woman from this morning, ordinary. No overlap with Diego whatsoever. In fact, she didn't even seem like Diego's type. I lowered my gaze to my belly. They say, under the influence of hormones, pregnant women often become sensitive and suspicious. Was I overthinking? Objectively speaking, Diego was beyond reproach. Last year, I took on a project that required a rare restoration material. He dropped everything to accompany me deep into the mountains to find it. There was a landslide on the way. Mud, stones, everything came crashing down. His first reaction was to shield me with his body, becoming my barrier, keeping me safe. Diego is an only child. He comes from a modest background, lost his father early, and his mother always hoped for a grandchild to carry on the family line. After we got married, he once relayed this to me. I casually replied, "Have you seen how painful childbirth is?" He actually went to look it up, read about the risks, and even attended a childbirth simulation to experience the pain. After that, he never mentioned kids again. I don't know how he explained it to his mother. But when I went back to visit with him, no one brought it up anymore. Not until that accident. That day, he woke up in the hospital, as I gently touched the scar on his back. I made a decision to have a child with him, one that would belong to us. Diego stayed silent for a long time, then pulled me tightly into his arms. He held me so tight, but I couldn't see his expression. Chapter 4. Once the bull was fully restored, I got a message from Diego. He had to work overtime unexpectedly. Outside, dusk was falling. The aging process couldn't be rushed either. My mother had always taught me that love in a marriage should go both ways, not just one person constantly giving. So I ordered a few of Diego's favorite dishes from our usual private kitchen, and took a car to his office. On the way, I habitually opened my social media. A set of photos popped up on my feed. I never followed celebrity news, so I didn't recognize the actress in the photos. But the jewelry brand she wore looked familiar. The necklace Diego gave me, turns out, she's the brand ambassador. Almost without thinking, I started looking her up. Originally a model, stage name Ruby. Started with minor roles 4 years ago. Last year, her resources suddenly skyrocketed, and she rose to fame. The twilight and clouds merged. The golden sunset bathed the city in light. I rolled down the car window. The evening breeze swept in, cool and gentle. Last year, around the same time, Diego joined the board of directors and gained real power. My father uncorked his prized red wine to celebrate him. Chapter 5. I called Neo. He was the client for the white glazed porcelain bowl, and also the editor-in-chief of a well-known fashion magazine. Ruby wasn't high-profile enough to deal directly with him, but someone from her agency, a much bigger name, had just appeared on his magazine recently. She wrapped up a new drama not long ago. These days she's planning to travel to Kenya. Why the sudden interest in celebrities? Hey, turns out she's from the same place as your husband. The car stopped in front of Diego's company. I lifted my gaze. The vice president's office, on the 3rd floor, sat in darkness. The Diego who'd claimed to be working late was nowhere in sight. Where was she filming recently? Neo named an obscure city. I happened to have heard of it. Not long ago, Diego went on a business trip there and brought me back a piece of underglaze painted porcelain. Chapter 6. I scrolled to Ruby's latest gossip news. During a live stream promoting her drama, netizens noticed ambiguous red marks on her neck. CP fans went wild, while someone posing as a solo fan of the male lead tried to refute them. Have you all forgotten she was photographed last year going home late at night with some guy? The phone screen went black. My own face reflected in the dark glass, like a cockroach lurking in a corner. Diego's call came through. Wife, you're not at the studio anymore? The workload was heavy and urgent, yet he couldn't bear to make me wait. He rushed over to pick me up after work. At that moment, I was already on my way here, just missing him. The food from the restaurant was still warm. Diego had even made 2 extra appetizers and a pot of borscht. Wife, I've been thinking you shouldn't be left alone right now. I won't go to Africa after all. I lowered my head to drink the soup, but my stomach suddenly felt stuck. Half an hour ago, I just had Neo schedule an exclusive interview with Ruby. For it, she'd canceled her trip to Kenya. Chapter 7. After dinner, while Diego went to slice some fruit, I turned on the TV. A moment later he came out carrying the fruit platter, a faintly guilty look on his face. Wife, I just got a call. A sweet, soft female voice floated from the television. Almost at the same moment, Diego turned his head. Ruby's face appeared on the screen. What is it? He seemed mesmerized, unmoving until I spoke. I know this actress. He sat down beside me, sliding his phone into his pocket. She was my junior in middle school. Didn't expect her to become an actress later. Last year she saw my news and contacted me asking for help. What kind of help? Connections. She has no background. It's hard for her. He handed me a slice of peach. Don't worry. I didn't agree. I know how much effort Dad put in to get me to this position. I won't let him down. I didn't tell you because I was too busy, and we only exchanged a few words. I didn't think it mattered. I'm sorry, wife. His tone was natural and forthright, speaking of his connection to Ruby just like that. It was me instead, hiding and probing, like some petty villain. Elise. He suddenly called my name. I worked so hard to marry you. Everything we have today wasn't easy. I treasure it. He hugged me, his chest pressing against my cheek. I smelled again that familiar clean scent, comforting. That night, while Diego showered, I sat on the bed scrolling my phone. A few years ago, I'd opened an account on a social media platform, occasionally posting my work as a cultural relics restorer, along with some paintings. Gradually, I'd gathered tens of thousands of followers. Every time I logged in, there were private messages waiting. About an hour ago, one of my longtime followers sent me a DM. Teacher, I'm so sad. I'm sick, but my boyfriend ditched me to be with another woman. I turned my head sharply, looking at Diego's phone charging on the bedside table. Chapter 8. In the kitchen, Diego took a call. When he came out carrying the fruit, he had originally meant to tell me he needed to work overtime. Whatever changed his mind and made him stay, I didn't ask. Likewise, I didn't touch his phone. Diego knew better than anyone, I don't tolerate sand in my eyes. If he really had something to hide from me, he'd never leave traces in places I could find them. I don't like tug-of-war. Either I stay still, or I strike in one fatal move. Darling, I want to go to Chanyun Temple on Saturday. Diego didn't have work that weekend, so he readily agreed. I got up early, heading out before the sun rose. Just as we passed the highway entrance, I received a message from Neo. He had already taken Diego's car key and was on his way to Ruby's place. When setting up the exclusive interview, I had asked Neo to suggest a home visit first to shoot some behind-the-scenes material. Neo was an expert at this kind of thing and easily convinced Ruby. An ancient temple, mountains layered one after another. I climbed step by step. Clouds parted. Mist lifted, scriptures chanted. The statue of Kitagarbha Bodhisattva was solemn and compassionate. A fortune stick slipped from my hand and fell to the ground, bringing wine and buying flowers. Youthful affairs, nothing like the feelings of before. Want to draw another one? Diego bent down to help me up. I looked back. The sky above was heavy with dark clouds, rain was coming. Minutes ago, Neo had just driven away from Ruby's residential compound. Whether entering or leaving, no one stopped him, even though he was driving Diego's car. Chapter 9. I got in touch with one of the fans who had commented under Ruby's post. The original blog post, the one that included photos of Ruby walking late at night with a mysterious man, was long gone. But based on the info she provided, I tracked down the marketing account that had first posted it. He was paid to post, and refused to share anything, only said, I can't afford to cross them. What kind of person holds that much power? Before I could figure it out, I saw my own name on the trending searches. Chapter 10. I work in cultural relic restoration and am fairly well known in the field. Though I've had some visibility outside the circle, mainly through antique and painting communities, I've never had any connection to celebrity gossip. And yet, several trending topics on Weibo popped up all at once. Clearly, someone was targeting me directly. Marketing accounts not only posted my personal info and social media handles, they even went after my family. Our ancestors rose to prominence through antique studies. But by my father's generation, the family had switched to real estate and hadn't touched artifacts in years. But these accounts wouldn't let up. They claimed our assets weren't clean, and even questioned the academic integrity of my mother's university professorship. There was no evidence, just a masterful manipulation of narrative and emotional outrage. In the blink of an eye, my account was flooded. Waves of insults, and even some lone voices accusing my family of using wealth and power to suppress talented youth. Disregarding law and morality, I had a vague idea who they were referring to. The entire thing struck me as ridiculous. I took screenshots of the posts, account names, and comments, and prepared to call my parents to give them a heads up. But just as I exited to the home screen, the posts that had been trending at the top suddenly fell to the bottom of the list. I wasn't sure if Diego would stand up for me, but I was certain he wasn't capable of doing something like that. I tested the waters with my parents and asked a few well-connected friends. They were all equally baffled. In the end, it was my childhood friend Luciana who gave me a lead. "Do you still keep in touch with Kevin?" Those 3 words triggered something, like a fuse pulled tight. A thunderclap roared underground. Memories came flooding back. Kevin. Yes. He would absolutely have that kind of power. Chapter 11. Diego had a dinner engagement tonight, but he was worried I wouldn't enjoy the food the housekeeper made, especially with my pregnancy nausea acting up. So he came home early from work to make dinner for me himself. I invited Leo to come along. He'll help me drink on my behalf. Leo's car was parked outside, waiting, while Diego was busy in the kitchen. I invited Leo in to sit. Who would have thought? Diego, so sharp and decisive at work, actually puts on an apron at home. "Only for you, sis-in-law. This tea has such a unique flavor. Did you pick it up on one of your field trips again?" I smiled, didn't answer, and poured him another cup. Every time Diego goes on a business trip, he brings me a gift. Sometimes it's a luxury item, sometimes a local souvenir. Last time, he brought me a tea set and some local tea leaves. That was also the first time he went completely MIA in the middle of the night. I was so angry I scheduled a termination the next morning, even seriously considered divorce. Diego rushed back overnight and dragged Leo in as his witness. He said that during those missing hours, they were both forced to drink heavily, passed out, and didn't realize their phones had died. Oh, so. I lifted the teacup and took a sip. It was sweet with a trace of bitterness. The aftertaste lingered endlessly. "You've never had this tea before, have you?" Chapter 12. After Diego and Leo left, I headed out too. I drove Diego's car, straight toward Ruby's neighborhood. Just like Neo said, the parking barrier lifted automatically. The security guard at the gate smiled and welcomed me home. I parked under a tree. My phone vibrated. Diego had sent me a message. "Honey, I've arrived." He also sent a photo of the dinner gathering and a GPS location. I didn't bother opening them, because 1 minute later, he stepped out of a car and headed straight for Ruby's villa. I watched him press his finger gently on the lock. Fingerprint recognized. Door opened. Dark clouds were gathering overhead. The air was damp and stifling. By the time I caught my breath, I was already standing at Ruby's front door. The smart lock looked all too familiar. It was the exact same model we had at home. On instinct, I typed in our home password, the date Diego and I got together. The door opened. Chapter 13. I stood at the door, frozen for a few seconds, then suddenly felt like laughing. Under what circumstances would Ruby set the lock password? To the anniversary between Diego and me? Either that day also meant something significant to her, or this villa was bought by Diego himself. Diego was someone my father had personally chosen. He came from a poor background, rose through the ranks with me at an elite school, was given opportunities to study abroad, and now held a position of power. In other words, it was my father who funded his ability to keep a mistress. I lifted my foot, then stopped, right where I was about to step. A pair of pink leather shoes sat neatly on the floor, clearly not Diego's, and too small to be Ruby's. "Happy birthday to you." A soft, sweet voice drifted out from the living room. Step by step, I moved closer, hearing Diego's familiar voice join in, blending perfectly into the melody. A little girl ran into view, bouncing with joy. "Happy birthday, Mommy!" She threw herself into Ruby's arms, who wore a party hat. Off to the side, Diego looked at them with eyes full of tenderness. Click! The flash went off. I took the perfect family photo myself. The male lead snapped his head up. And what kind of face was that? The one I had kissed, caressed, watched day after day for 7 years, memorizing every single line. But in that moment, facing those eyes that had once held only me, my stomach turned violently. "Daddy, is this the photographer you found for Mommy?" The little girl tilted her head and looked at me, pure and innocent, just like I was at her age. Growing up surrounded by fatherly and motherly love, standing beside her. Diego's lips trembled. His face turned deathly pale. Chapter 14. Ruby was the first to move. Her career had just started to take off. That photo I took was enough to ruin her. "She's Mommy's friend, sweetheart. Go ahead and cut the cake. Mommy will talk to Auntie for a bit and be right back, okay?" But she still wanted to be a good mother. She didn't want drama in front of the child. I turned and walked toward the door. "Elise," Diego called out to me. His voice was heavy and powerless, not as light as when he sang the birthday song moments ago. He stopped Ruby from following, and came after me himself. "Let me explain." I looked back at him. He reached out, trying to take my hand, but stopped midway and slowly lowered it. Behind him, the little girl looked up at us with wide eyes. "Can we talk outside?" Diego asked cautiously. Waiting for my response, I let out a quiet laugh, maybe sarcastic. "No need, Diego. There's nothing left to say between us." My gaze shifted past him, and met Ruby's. She was nervous, but also excited, triumphant. "Well, I hope next year your birthday is just as joyful." Chapter 15. I wasn't threatening her. If she wanted to steal my man or climb the ladder, so be it. But she had no right to go after my family to destroy me. Once I left, the first thing I did was call my lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. The call connected, then I hung up. I wasn't calm enough. In this state, I wouldn't be able to secure the best outcome for myself. I had to admit, even though my marriage to Diego had started as a mix of pride and calculated gain, seeing that little girl, already in preschool, still made my throat tighten unbearably. "It's okay, Jiangluo Jean. You're just reacting to betrayal." I clenched my teeth and told myself this again and again. Even if it were a dog who'd stayed with you for 7 years, and then you found out it had secretly bonded with someone else, you'd still feel disgusted. It's not love. You're just enraged your pride was challenged. "Miss, please park over there." I snapped out of it. A security guard was pointing ahead. I looked up. A giant red cross hung above me. So, somehow, I had driven myself to the hospital. I stepped out of the car, and was hit by a wave of dizziness. I didn't even know why I had come here. "Elise!" A panicked voice called from behind. Diego ran up to me. Turns out, after I left, he'd been secretly following me. "What are you doing?" He grabbed my arm in a panic. I turned and slapped him across the face. Time froze. All I could hear were the incessant, shrill cries of summer cicadas. But summer was almost over. Chapter 16. At the hospital, I underwent a full checkup. The baby was already formed. She lived inside my body, unaware of what was happening outside, growing peacefully on her own. And in that moment, I realized, she's my child. Even if Diego betrayed our promise, this child is still mine. After leaving the hospital, I went for a soothing spa, then headed straight to my studio. When I get caught up in work, I often end up working late. So over time, I set up a cozy little home there. I finished the final touches on the white porcelain bowl, then lay in bed, mentally prepared for a sleepless night. But to my surprise, I fell asleep quickly. Maybe because the confusion had cleared, and the weight in my chest had finally lifted. The next morning, I met with my lawyer to discuss drafting the divorce agreement. Before we got married, Diego had signed a prenup voluntarily to prove how genuine his love for me was, so he wasn't entitled to any of my assets. As for everything he gained through my parents' connections over the years, I would make sure he returned it all. After leaving the law firm, I met with Neo, mostly to collect some influencer resources, and ask him to help me leak the story. As a thank you, I'll waive the restoration fee for the bull. Hey, business is business. You're a master. Everyone knows how hard it is to get a spot with you. I insist on paying unless. His eyes sparkled with mischief. I chuckled. What did your grandma break this time? Neo's eyes lit up like a child, and he gave me a knowing look. He waved a hand, and his assistant brought out a pile of shattered ceramic pieces. It was a broken vase. Your craftsmanship is next level. Seriously, it's like resurrection magic. No one would guess this bowl was ever broken. He admired the white porcelain I had just finished, but my eyes landed on the broken shards. Some mirrors, once shattered, can never truly be whole again, no matter how skilled the hands. Still, I took the job. Connections in the entertainment world can be quite useful. That very afternoon, Ruby's childbirth and affair scandal exploded online. Someone seemed to be helping from behind the scenes. The post quickly topped the trending charts. Netizens soon dug up the male lead's identity and came knocking on my account to confirm. I didn't respond. I was buried in those broken shards, working till evening. Then the studio doorbell rang. Diego had shown up. Chapter 17. I glanced at the video doorbell, then sat right back down. The scandal online was growing fast, and soon reached Diego's company. As a government-funded enterprise, they take public image and personal conduct seriously. After a meeting, top management decided Diego would be suspended from all duties. Now that he had plenty of free time, he focused it all on trying to win me back. 4 days, he camped at my door. He'd hand me my takeout, follow me around when I left. 8 years ago, he courted me the same way. Back then, I had just broken up with Kevin. Diego caught wind of it and began shadowing me every day. I went shopping, he carried bags. I went drinking, he silently blocked the creeps. I traveled, he planned each stop ahead of me. I knew he was chasing me, but unlike other suitors, he didn't stage big, romantic gestures. He was so quiet. He almost didn't exist, like a secretary/bodyguard. If Kevin was the son I had to chase, then Diego was the shadow silently following behind. He seemed to understand me, whatever I needed. He could sense it before I said a word. Raised in comfort and privilege, I had no patience for the grind required to fit in with Kevin's world. So when my father asked if I'd consider Diego, I hesitated. I had tasted the pain of chasing love and ending up broken. Choosing someone from a weaker background, easier to control, sounded far more comfortable. Too bad we were both wrong. When someone stays too long in a high place, they forget how they got up there. You open this one. A new package had arrived, looked like a letter. I tore halfway, then turned and handed it to Diego. He froze, then his eyes lit up. It was the first thing I'd said to him in so long. He moved fast, 3 swift motions, and the package was open. Inside, a snow-white envelope. On the cover, bold black letters. Divorce agreement. Chapter 18. Take a good look. If there's no issue, sign it. What responded to me was a dull thud. Diego rolled up the divorce papers and threw them directly into the trash can. He rarely disobeyed me so bluntly. I'm not getting divorced. After being with him for so long, I knew him well enough to guess that his recent calmness came from one thing: wishful thinking. He knew my character: decisive, merciless. When I loved Kevin, I loved fiercely. I was even willing to give up everything just to be with him. But once I realized I didn't mean that much to him, that I was the only one pulling in a tug-of-war, I let go almost instantly. Now things were different. I was nearly 30. I had a child on the way. 7 years of companionship made Diego foolishly assume that even if I wouldn't compromise for him, I might do it for the child. Elise, our baby is about to be born. You may not understand how important a father is in a child's life, but just look at the difference between me and you. He lost his father early in life. He had often told me how much he respected my father, how he envied me for growing up with a dad. But so what? In the end, He still hurt the one person who meant everything to my father. I'll admit it, I was wrong. I hid the truth about Ruby from you. I lied. I shouldn't have kept in contact with her. But there was never anything inappropriate between us. After my father died, things got really hard. Debt collectors were at our door every day. I almost dropped out of school. You wouldn't know that. Elise, you were born into privilege. You'll never understand that kind of fear and shame. I used to hate my dad for leaving us with so much mess. He laughed bitterly at his own words. I didn't speak. My father sponsored him. How could he not know? And as his daughter, how could I have married Diego without being fully aware? Diego appeared gentle on the outside, but deep down he was full of pride. So I never exposed those scars. We only ever tried to make his life easier. The worst time, it was my homeroom teacher who helped me. She paid my tuition, sheltered us from the debt collectors. We used to hide in her house. Now I understood why he was bringing this up. Ruby was that teacher's daughter. So that time, he lied to me. Yes, Ruby was his junior in middle school. But they'd actually met when he was still in elementary school. He was completely absorbed in his tragic past, reciting it like a script. Her whole family helped me and my mom. Ruby never came to me before, but she had nowhere else to turn this time. Elise, you know me. I can't be ungrateful. He blocked the doorway with his body, so I just sat down on the bench outside. That's it? He looked at me, and after 2 seconds of eye contact, his throat moved, and then he continued, and the child. I leaned forward slightly, elbows on my knees. He crouched down to meet me at eye level. Sophia, that little girl is Ruby's daughter, with her ex. He paused after every sentence, carefully watching my face. She was abandoned very young. She doesn't remember much. One time, Ruby came to see me and brought her along. She could barely walk. She stumbled, and I caught her. She grabbed my hand and called me daddy. He looked down at that part, so I couldn't see his eyes, or the tenderness he could no longer hide. She reminded me of myself when I was young. I couldn't say no. Slowly, she really started to treat me like her father. Back then, you had told me you didn't want kids, and I didn't want you to go through that pain, so I hadn't imagined it. That day, when I told him I wanted a baby, his stunned reaction had no real joy in it. He lowered his head again. It's all my fault. I didn't set proper boundaries. I'm sorry, Elise. I really messed up. Suddenly, he grabbed my hand. I instinctively pulled back in disgust, but he suddenly dropped to his knees. Elise, I know I deserve hell. I've wronged you. I've failed you. But, for the sake of our child, please, give me another chance. He looked up at me earnestly, holding one hand over his heart. I've already made things clear with Ruby and her daughter. I won't see them again. You can check my phone. I'll delete all my accounts if you want. I'll stay home, stay by your side. Elise, I won't leave you or the baby. I swear. This tall man, over 6 feet tall, was trembling, his eyes red. Please, don't divorce me. I stared at him. Suddenly, I let out a snort of laughter. Diego, do you think I'm an idiot? He froze. I tilted my head slightly and locked eyes with him. Do you honestly think I don't know everything? Chapter 19. Diego looked at me, his eyelids drooping slightly, and stayed silent for a good 5 or 6 seconds. He was probably weighing things. In the end, he still couldn't help but use the same smooth talking, back and forth tactics from the workplace on me. Do you know? Ruby had already started following my account 4 years ago? 2 years ago. She started messaging me. Diego's eyes widened abruptly. What was he so shocked about? Was it regret that he had done all that and lied to me too? Or was he angry that Ruby had been so arrogant, and now her actions had exposed his lie? Do you need me to pull out the paternity test results between you two? The light in Diego's eyes dimmed little by little. Diego, did it ever occur to you? If your daughter heard what you just said about her, how would she feel? You keep saying you couldn't bear to hurt her, but you're just like. I pressed my lips together. In the end, I didn't say the rest. Not because I pitied him, but because I didn't want to stoop to that level. But he still got the message. His one straight back slumped. Yeah, I'm just like my father, maybe worse. Abandoning a child for personal gain. I pulled my hand back. not offering him one bit of sympathy. You've already lost one child. Don't break the heart of the other. Sign the divorce agreement either quietly in private or publicly in court. I stood up and walked out. The weather today was nice. It felt like a waste to stay cooped up in the studio all day. Might as well go out and enjoy some fresh air. On the way out, my mom called and asked if I wanted to come stay at home for a while. The online uproar had gotten huge. Ruby had been blacklisted, forced to pay massive damages, and Diego had been suspended pending investigation. Naturally, my parents weren't unaware of what had happened. I'm fine, Mom. Don't worry. Once I finish the work I have on hand, I'll come home. My mother was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, I could tell she had been weighing things in her mind. But in the end, she still chose not to hide it from me. Kevin reached out to your father not long ago. Chapter 20. I drove aimlessly for a long time. Before I realized it, the car had stopped in front of a tea house. The layout and name were familiar. Back in college, I used to spend a lot of time in a place just like this. Not that I was ever really into tea. I was dating Kevin back then, 8 years older than me, and he loved studying tea culture. Opening a tea house was one of his hobbies. This must be a branch. I've been in Tanching for years and haven't seen another one around. Suddenly feeling thirsty, I opened the car door and got out. Walking to the entrance almost instinctively, Kevin's place obviously wasn't open to just anyone. It ran on a membership system, no cards, just facial recognition. I wondered if my face still counted. Welcome. A sharp-eyed staff member opened the door for me. She led me to the farthest room on the 3rd floor. Mr. Kevin has been waiting for you. I stood at the doorway, feeling a bit dazed. 12 years ago, I met Kevin alone for the first time, just like this. So many years had passed, but his arrogance had only grown stronger. He could have just contacted me directly. But instead, he reached out to my father, leaving a message for me. If I wanted to see him, I'd show up. If not, he wouldn't push. Just like back then, if I could accept that he couldn't give me a future, I could stay. If not, I could leave. He wouldn't stop me. Unfortunately, he hadn't changed, and neither had I. My fingers were just an inch away from the doorknob. Then I pulled back and turned to leave. Elise. The corridor was quiet and empty, his voice echoing like it came from a distant past, drifting softly to my ears. I turned around. The dim hallway light cast a warm glow on the man's features, making him seem softer somehow. My gaze dropped to his ring finger. It was bare. Maybe it was intentional. He took off the ring before meeting me. Or maybe, even a well-matched marriage didn't last long after all. Either way, it had nothing to do with me now. Back then, I was young, proud, thinking love could conquer all. And that, with my family background, no door was out of reach. But unfortunately, my lover didn't think the same. Kevin never really believed that a businessman's daughter like me could win his mother's favor and marry into his family. That rainy night, the sky dark, he looked down and asked me if I could wait for 3 years. Wait how? Exactly? Follow him around without a title, while he married someone else in broad daylight? Wait. My ass. I slapped him hard, so hard my hand ached for 2 days. After those 2 days, I couldn't tell what hurt more, my hand or my heart. We never saw each other again. Back then, I thought if we ever did, I would be the proud one, make him regret, make him feel like I was out of his league. But now, across the corridor, face to face, my first thought was, maybe he still had feelings for me, and maybe I could use that to get him to help me. After all, he was connected to the executive director of Diego's company's headquarters. One word from him, and Diego would not only be unemployed, he'd be blacklisted from the entire industry. Same with Ruby, she'd be done. All those fluctuating trending posts before? That had to be his doing. I can't give you anything. There's no chance for us to start over. I laid my cards on the table. He smiled, quietly brewing tea. Steam rose between us. I know you didn't change for him. That's enough. Yes, time doesn't matter. Loving the wrong person doesn't matter. What matters is, I was always myself. Never lost. Never cheapened. And that means my path forward will always be bright and beautiful.